I think probably one of the most surprising things in my career was that I felt at times that like I'm doing all the right things and stuff sometimes just doesn't work out.
Stuff doesn't work out.
When you're trying to motivate a team, you're trying to get a certain result, and no matter how hard you try, sometimes it doesn't happen. But then sometimes when you don't put any effort in, the luck just comes. That to me is surprising. When you're trying to go after a certain target, like I'm managing customer experience teams at some point in my career, and I'm trying to hit a certain goal, and then just how the universe delivers what you actually want and need. But when you try and force it, it doesn't happen. The same thing happens in gambling. You're trying to hit a certain number, and it just never hits. But when you don't try, that's when it happens. It blows my mind how that happens. Like the thing that you most need, you get when you don't actually expect it.
I like that. It's what I found super fascinating about the journey is it's like, and I want your opinion on this, it's like everything always works out. You know, it's like in those moments where you like feel the most stressed and you're like, this is never going to work, or I'm never going to be able to get something productive out of this. It's like you look back on all those moments where you were the most scared, you were the most nervous, and you thought like, this is it for me. I'm going to have to, work at McDonald's or wherever. And it's like, no, like every piece served a certain purpose that aligns with what you're doing now. Yeah, talk me through that.
I think that life happens for you, not to you. Right? Having been fired twice throughout my career, it made a world of difference. It was the path that led me to where I am today. I had to go through the bad shit to get to the good shit and the stuff that's going to continue to come that I don't even know about. It's that journey that we're on. And so I appreciate the journey, but I also realize that like if you put out those bad vibes and like attract that stuff that's negative and tell yourself those shitty stories, you're going to have all the crap that you don't want in your life. I think we can control our own world in some way. This might sound like woo-woo kind of stuff, but that is the reality of what this world is, that we can make it our own by just putting ourselves out there in the right situation, meet the right people, taking action when it's uncomfortable.
What do you reflect on, or what do you tell yourself, or what do you do to self-soothe when you're going through like a really challenging chapter of your life? Like let's say for the people that are for the people that got fired today, like what is a piece of advice that you could give them to just help them process it or feel better about their circumstance?
Like in the moment, it sucks. Obviously, it sucks to lose your job and you feel like you've got no control. The advice that I would give, having gone through it twice, is that you can reinvent yourself. You might not like that particular day when it happens, but at the end of the day, you can move forward by figuring out that like you can reinvent, you can go and invest in yourself, and you can also protect yourself next time around. But don't put all your faith in one employer.
Right.
There's no such thing as loyalty. So invest in new skills. Like anybody right now should be investing in AI and how to use AI, so that they can actually, use that service and be the expert in it. Because yes, that's going to take jobs, but it's going to give jobs to people too.
I love your perspective, because I think that it's something that's very rare. And it's like any situation in life. Like we either allow it to define us or we find a way to transcend it. When you use the word reinvent yourself, like what is something tactical that people can do to reinvent themselves?
I think that if they want to reinvent themselves, they can be intentional with what their goals are. So set out your goal of who you really want to be a year from now. Ask yourself that one question. Who do I want to be a year from now? What do I want to do? And figure out how can you do that. Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to reinvent yourself physically? Do you want to invest in yourself? Maybe it's taking a course. Maybe it's starting to read a certain number of books. Do you want to gain new skills? So you need to, maybe go and attend a mastermind group or be with other people who are going to help you and build your network. Figure out what your goal is a year from now and work backwards. I think far too many people just kind of are on autopilot throughout their life. Therefore, it's hard to reinvent yourself if you don't take some intentionality and some action.
I love that. And but a lot of people have limiting beliefs around money. They have a lot of fears about investing in themselves. And my understanding is that you've invested in yourself a lot. And you also take a lot of calculated risks. So what are some circumstances, actual circumstances that you've gone through where you saw yourself invest, whether monetarily or with your time, into something, and there was an ROI on the other side of it that gave you the confidence that, hey, it's a good idea to invest in myself?
So in 2018, I wanted to create a speaking business, but I had no idea how to do it. And I thought, I need to find a way to build up my own personal brand. But I thought, well, I also probably need to have a website. I'm not an IT guy, but I'm like, I'm going to invest in training for myself to learn how to build a website. I've now built 5 different websites myself. And I know that's going to be something that's going to be super valuable for me from an ROI perspective. So when I consult with business owners about what's going on with their business and I'm looking at their social profile or their website, I can actually speak the language to maybe people that they've contracted with because I've invested in myself to understand how a website's put together. That's like one example of many, right? But it's so important that like I learn these skills if I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to help other business owners. So like I can talk the marketing side because I've done it. I won't do anything and I won't try and pitch myself as being some expert if I haven't done it.
That right there. That's it.
That's critical.
Yeah, I love that. Talk to me a little bit about the consulting. So where do you feel is like your zone of genius within the consulting? What do you think that you do from a consulting perspective better than most?
I think this comes from the poker player in me, but I ask really good questions. I think that I can get deep to understand someone's, not only their business, but their needs, their desires, what they're ultimately trying to do. I'm reading the tells to figure out how can we actually figure out what is your true why that's going to actually help you with growing your business, however you want to grow it, how to actually stabilize, optimize, and make your business thrive, not just survive. I ask those questions and I get super deep, and that's why I call it a deep dive, right? For 2 days, I'm all in on your business to work with you on your business, in your business, because I'm asking those questions to understand who you are as a business owner. And from there, we have great conversations that really start to unlock that true potential of what do they actually want so we can get to the root cause. I think it's the ops guy in me too. As an operations guy, like you've got to figure out what the root cause is to fix that. And that's where it's digging deep on that why and asking those questions. That's why I also interview people as part of my hiring company. It's those skills that I've really mastered through poker that have helped me do that.
I do want to touch on the poker pretty soon, but like diving even a little bit deeper than that, I think like for a lot of people, they don't even understand what their why is. So for you to try to take on that responsibility, how do you get their why out? This is popular. A lot of people don't know what their why is.
Right.
Because it's always, there's the surface layer why, which is like, oh, well, I'd love to make more money. I'd love to work less. But it goes way deeper than that. This is a core belief within the person. Right. How do you help people extract that why out of themselves?
Well, so Dean Graziosi has the 7 levels deep exercise where you're asking why 7 times to really truly understand that. I won't be as maybe annoying with it, where I'm just like, Jonathan, give your answer and then why. But I will ask in a roundabout way to try and get that. The thing that I think is different though with me and other people, I also will reveal a ton about myself throughout the process with somebody. Because that builds trust and rapport so then they feel more open to share and get deep. And it's not manipulative in any way, but it's just, I think you have to just build that trust and that rapport and honesty with somebody. So I will reveal a lot about myself, and I hope that then there's this way that there's like reciprocity that kind of comes back, and then we can dive deep together. And I will also challenge people. I'm not just going to take the surface level answer like, well, is that truly what it is? Is it truly about money, or why do you need money? What is that about? Again, you got to get deeper and deeper and deeper.
I think like what fascinates me about you saying like, it's not manipulative. The way that I perceive it is you're taking the first step to show them that it's safe for them to take a step.
Yes.
Right?
Every conversation I have, especially like when I go into consulting or I'm coaching employees, I say it's Las Vegas. What happens here stays here. We're going to create a safe place where we can have these conversations and just go all in on it together.
Yeah.
I think you have to create that environment. And I think a lot of people, business owners and leaders and teams and companies, they don't create that space, so then they only kind of half get like the results or the feedback that they want from somebody. I get people opening up to me all the time and being super emotional about what's going on in their world. And I think it's because we're trying to create that environment. We're like, hey, you can feel safe.
Right.
Not enough leaders are doing that.
Right. And I mean, it's hard to diagnose when you don't know all the symptoms, you don't know all the core pains, you don't have all that context, right? I think that it's super fascinating that, you have that poker angle there. Talk me through what it means to be an entrepreneur and taking risks. Because poker, a lot of it, gambling in general, is a lot of risk taking. Is there a lot of people that have fear around risk taking? Do you think people play it too safe? What have you seen?
I think people do play it too safe. I think that it's our culture to try and find a way to be safe. And so there's this fear, there's like scarcity mindset that a lot of people have that stops them from maybe going all in on what they truly want. You know, I've been talking to a lot of people in recent weeks who, you know, some of them are, you know, they've come from maybe, you know, more of an immigrant background, or they've kind of come through a rough upbringing of some sort. So they don't want to lose what they have. So they're scared to maybe jump into, you know, doing something for themselves that they truly want to do. A lot of people want to create a business, but then they're scared to do it. Because, like, what will my family think? How will I be perceived by my friends? Am I going to lose this life that I've maybe built? So then they operate of, like, I'm just going to play small. I don't want to take a chance and risk it. But sometimes it's more about just getting on base. Sometimes you want to try and hit a home run. So the people I find who really are entrepreneurial, who want to put themselves out there, it's about building up that confidence and also that tolerance that, you know what, sometimes you're not always going to win. But when you do, it's going to work out. And I think that comes from the gambling side. I got to be in as many pots as I possibly can to try and win, but I'm not going to win every hand. Sometimes I got to lose the hand to win the tournament.
I love that. I love that. And there's been like so many, like I've just seen so many social media posts where people say, you know, like success is not just like this constant incline.
No.
There's a lot of ups and downs, but the idea is, you know, each time you're getting a little bit closer with every failure that you experience. Was there something, I want to get a little bit more vulnerable, was there something in your childhood, something that you experienced, people that were around you that did not take those risks, that made you feel like, okay, I am not going to make this same mistake, I am going to transcend this and be more risk-taking?
You are getting me vulnerable here. It's definitely a look at my dad. My dad was never a risk taker. He never wanted to be the leader in a team or a business. He struggled with that idea. And I would see that and I'm like, why do you not want to be the guy? Why do you not want to be the person on stage or to help, you know, guide something? And he'd be miserable in his career. And every day I would ask him, hey Dad, how was work today? And he would say, long, hard, and boring. And I'm like, I don't want that. I don't have kids, but if I don't want to come home and say, long, hard, and boring. I want to have fun. I want to have something where it's like I feel passionate about it and I'm excited. Honestly, success for me is fulfillment. And my dad was never fulfilled, so it sounds bad, but I just never wanted to become my dad. I want to go all in and have fun. And I want to enjoy what I do and make an impact.
I love that perspective. So I kind of have this theory. I look at my brothers. My brothers are completely satisfied with a 9-to-5 job. They're completely satisfied, you know, wife, kids, you know, very like the basic needs, not exceptional homes or cars or lifestyle. But there's a part of me that's kind of jealous of them because they are fully satisfied with their circumstances. You know, individuals like yourself and myself, it's almost as if we always carry this chip on our shoulder.
Yeah.
So do you have any fear that you will never be completely satisfied with your life because you're always striving for more?
Yes, 100%. I think I am never going to be satisfied, and I think that maybe is tough for people to be in a relationship with me. I've had a lot of failed relationships throughout my life.
Same.
Right? And it's because I think I'm constantly pushing. I believe we're only here once, at least in this life, right? So at the end of the day, like, I want to try and maximize it, but I know I'm never going to get there to do everything that I want. But if I can knock off those regrets, that's going to make a world of difference for me, because I don't want to be 100 years old and then be like, I wish I would have done this, this, and this. So I always want to do more. And the world's always changing. And I think if you're not growing, you're dying. So I have to do different things. So that's why I try and call myself the all-in solopreneur, and I try and do different businesses, because I'm just not satisfied doing one thing.
Right.
One thing's boring.
Right. Is there any advice that you could give to anyone, because you've been married for a little while now, like for those that are just considering diving in right now, maybe they're looking for some consulting assistance, like, is there any advice that you could give to a man that has a partner and they're considering this journey? Like, how do you find that balance? Is there balance? What advice can you give to that guy that's in a relationship?
So that guy in that relationship has to realize it's not really all about him. It actually is a partnership. So it's maybe they're not part of the business, but they are part of the business, because they're your support team. So I will talk with my wife about maybe major investments that I'm going to do, not all the day-to-day stuff, right? But like make sure I'm, explaining what's kind of going on, keeping her apprised of what's happening, because it's an investment that I'm making for us. It is a partnership, even though she's not in the business. And I when I do consult with business owners and I talk about what's going on in their personal life and their family and the support, I ask them about that support team because you need that. It's lonely when you're trying to build a business. But if you've got a spouse, girlfriend, whatever it's going to be, you need to have that person in your corner who also understands. You might put in some odd hours. You might be doing stuff on a Saturday or Sunday for your business in the early stages to get it going. Because you need that adaptability, you need that person. And you need that person that you can also open up to about some of the challenges that are going on. Because it's hard.
So that kind of leads to the next question. When do you know that it's time to give up on a specific objective that maybe didn't meet your needs or didn't meet the goal that you set out? When do you know to call it quits?
Or what I say, when do you know when to fold?
When do you know when to fold?
Of course. I think you know when to fold when you feel it, but other people see it too.
Wow. Talk me through that.
Right? So there was a time in my career where I knew I needed to change, but I didn't have, honestly, the guts to try and make that call myself, but I needed someone else to tell me that I needed to make a change. And it was my wife who really said, like, I know that you're not fulfilled right now in this area, but you need to actually do something here that's going to help us. It's going to be scary, but you're going to have to make this really big shift.
Wow.
And I needed to hear it from someone else, especially my wife, for me to have the confidence to really do it.
That's really rare. I feel like it's really rare to find somebody that cares that much about someone to be able to call that out. Because like I've certainly never experienced that. If anything, like my experience has been more, my partners are kind of like, slow down, why do you need to do all these things? You don't need to be all these things. You could just play it safe, because I think that, it's very human to just chase that comfort.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me to my next thought. In your consulting, what are some consistencies that you've seen with your clients? Have you seen consistencies between all of them where you're able to say, okay, there's this belief, or there's this challenge, or there's this why that seems to be in common? Have you seen any trends?
I think there's one big trend that always stands out to me with every client is that they're underutilizing tools and resources that they already have at their disposal. So many small business owners who I really support as I'm consulting have technology in place that they don't even leverage or utilize. Or there's free stuff out there that they don't take advantage of. That is a big commonality that I see. Right? There's a lot to talk about AI and ChatGPT, and everyone's like, oh, I'm working so hard, but they don't actually go and leverage this thing that people have been talking about for a long time. Right? Leverage the tools that are out there. The other thing that I think a lot of people have in common is that they might not actually take action on the stuff that they've learned. Like more and more people are like going through courses, or they're joining mastermind groups, or investing in themselves, especially some of the small business owners that I'm helping. But they know all this stuff, they hear all this stuff, but they don't actually take action. You gotta walk the talk.
Do you think that most people, their biggest challenge is not lack of opportunity, but it's lack of work ethic? They just don't want to put the time in. Because, Alex Hormozy has this video, and I really like it. It's like he basically says, if you put 20 hours into anything, you basically know 80%.
Right.
But it's the first hour that gets everybody caught up. So do you feel like it's lack of opportunity or lack of work ethic?
I think it's a combo of both. Sometimes it's a lack of opportunity, but it's also maybe just a lack of being resourceful enough to actually take advantage of those opportunities. The work ethic piece, I think some people have a great work ethic, but they're focused on the wrong priorities. It's very easy to be sidetracked. Shiny object syndrome is a real thing, right? So that can pull you away from the right stuff. Like, I know people who, they'll put so many hours into their business, but it's on the wrong priorities.
Wow.
Focus on the stuff that's actually going to move the needle, right? So I always talk to people, especially I have this as my planner as well, where I talk about just focus on 2 to 3 big things per day. Get those done first. Then worry about all the other stuff. Or don't worry about it, because you don't have to work and do a crazy amount of hours. Just focus on the big dominoes. they're actually going to make a world difference. You can be busy or you can be productive.
I love that. It's so true. Talk me through like when it comes to like being productive. You know, like that's kind of like a little bit of a theme that it seems like that you're kind of like leaning into. Do you believe in burnout? Do you believe that when you're actually passionate about something, burnout is something that can still happen? Do you have limits?
I think we all have limits, and burnout is a real thing. I have felt burnt out before doing things that I absolutely love. I love creating videos and content, but there are times where I get burnt out doing it. You have to give yourself a break. You can't, and I'm the all-in guy, but you can't be all in all the time.
Well, that's why I thought like burnout was probably not in your vocabulary.
But
yeah.
it is a true thing.
Okay.
Right? Because you can't go 100% all the time. It's going to be exhausting. You have to give yourself a break. I'm a big believer in rewarding yourself. So have something that you also really love to do, and that can be a way to like, okay, I can stop and I can pause the world for a little bit. Some sort of way just to give yourself like a reward, a treat, or something. So then it gives you something to look forward to, but don't kill yourself doing it. Right? Don't work harder, work smarter, but find a way to like do it in a way that is sustainable.
I've never had a client, and I've literally worked with hundreds of clients over the years. I've never had a client say, I recorded 100 videos today. So kind of walk me through a little bit of your process. Like, how is it that you're able to pump out so much content so fast?
Well, I think there's a couple things that are really key. One, I record ideas all the time. I have a Google Doc that I'm constantly adding ideas to. But when I decide it's recording time, let's turn it into a game. So, setting up the camera, setting up the lighting, I have my ideas behind the camera, and then I've got a bunch of different clothes that I'm able to switch outfits in between, and I'll start to record. I have in my hand a clicker that's turning my camera on and off, and as I'm recording these sessions, and I'll just start going, and I'm trying to see, can I hit whatever that goal is? I recorded 143 videos in one day. My goal was 50.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, I hit 50. Can I hit 100? Can I best myself? Everything's a game to me.
So the last two opportunities that I had, in both cases, I was basically told to create my own role.
Okay.
And I really did not get a lot of direction. Not like the strongest like CEO presence, you know, and a lot of it was be resourceful. You were hired because you have this specific skill, but in terms of translating it over to the specific job role, I felt very lost. So, you know, for me that was kind of demoralizing, and it was very hard to read if I was effective or not. So is this something you see a lot of?
All the time. It is a sad thing that's happening in a lot of businesses right now. Small business, big business, corporate. Too many people are left to figure out, one, how they're doing, and left to figure out how to actually do their job. Not enough focus is put on training, onboarding, setting someone up to succeed and to win. You need to make sure that people actually know how they're measured, what they're actually doing, and more importantly, why it matters. I think business owners in general, a lot of leaders, they don't know what they don't know because they've never been trained themselves.
Wow. Okay.
So many entrepreneurs, especially the people that I'll work with in this space too, right? They don't know what they don't know because they've never learned that. I think everyone should have the opportunity in some capacity to actually go work in a corporate environment where there's a little bit more of this sometimes. It'll help. But like at the end of the day, like you have to realize like what would you want? But business owners don't think about that. And they also hire people like, you're a leader, you should figure this out on your own. Yes, there's an element to being resourceful, but like you're not really teaching them. There's not enough support that's given to people. And maybe they just don't want to do it, or maybe they're just not the right person. Some people are just shitty leaders too. Right? But honestly, at the end of the day, like training is valuable, but people don't see it as valuable until after the fact. But not enough people are willing to point the finger at themselves and say they're not doing enough.
With that in mind, when you look at a business and you look at the CEO, what are some qualities or characteristics that separate the good CEO from the exceptional CEO? What kinds of conversations are they having? What kind of touch points are there? Because oftentimes the CEO has a lot of responsibilities. They have a lot of different areas that they're touching. So when you look for those exceptional CEOs, what are some of those qualities?
I think the best CEOs think about their people first. And yes, they're supposed to be there to focus on the vision, making sure the operations and the business is kind of executing properly. But I think they have to think about people. Not always just like pleasing people, but thinking, how can we maximize the investment in people and human capital that we have in a business? Because if you're people focused first, you got to realize that's going to help take care of your customers, your growth, your profits. Everything's going to flow from that. Yes, they also need to be visionaries. They need to be able to come up with ideas, find ways to delegate the right way, to help people actually execute that, forming partnerships. I think the last piece that's really critical is realizing, as a CEO, your job is actually to make everyone's life easier, not make it worse. It's not all about you. It's actually about the bigger business, really. Being people first, though, in today's world means you're going to create a flexible work-life balance for people. Because people want flexibility. People care about how, when, and where they work. Yeah, they care about money too, right? People are going to care about how much they get paid. So make sure you pay them what they're worth, and then some. Because if not, they're just going to be looking for the next thing. Right? But creating that environment where they actually feel like they're also growing. Because you look at millennials especially, or younger people, they want to have a place where they see like there's actually room to grow. Because if not, they're just going to bounce to something else.
Something that I often see is when it comes to, and maybe this is a little bit more archaic, but I still see a lot of it. They will take the most tenured individual and they will put them into a leadership role.
Yeah, the best salesperson becomes the manager.
Right. And it's like they don't necessarily have the skill set of a leader, but because they are the top performer, it's almost like, okay, we're gonna give this to you as a reward for being the hardest worker, for being the longest tenured, what have you. Is that the wrong mindset when it comes to hiring for leadership?
100%. It's the worst idea that a business owner can do. Take the best customer service person, the best salesperson, and turn them into a leader. I will say this because I've hired, led, and promoted over 500 people through my career. I've made this mistake so many times and lived to regret it. Where I take in somebody who's a top performer and then I put them into a leadership spot where they fail. Or they're miserable doing it and they regret being a leader.
Wow.
Some people have asked to be demoted back, and some people have ended up being fired or they quit because they're not set up to win. Some people, they're not meant for leadership. Not everyone wants to be a leader or can be a leader. But if you take your best salesperson and turn them into a sales manager, you know what happens? Your sales, honestly, and especially in my experience that I've seen, starts to suffer.
Wow, really?
Your customer experience starts to suffer because you put somebody in the wrong spot. Too many people are miscast.
Yeah, so are there specific qualities that you look for in a great leader? Like, what are some of those qualities that a great leader has?
I think communication skills is number one.
Okay.
Because every problem that happens in business and in life is a communication problem. A strong leader needs to be able to communicate. Communicate with confidence, but also to be able to dial it back and be humble and be able to ask great questions is critical and important. So communication, number one. I think the second thing that is important is they need to be able to motivate other people. And by that, it also ties to communication, but get to know their people to figure out what actually works for them. Can you motivate them? Not push them, right? Don't be that command and control micromanager kind of person. But can you actually pull, the right, thing that's going to actually make them want to do whatever job that you have for them? That's also important. The other thing when it comes to creating a great leader, I think, is to realize that you have to be adaptable. Everything about leadership is situational. Yes, there are similar situations that I've faced throughout my career that I can maybe pull from this experience, that experience, but I have to adapt my approach to the person. You are going to be very different than talking to somebody else. Trying to lead you the same way would be stupid. It's a wrong way to do it. You got to cater your approach, which means you got to be adaptable.
And back to like the hiring side, now a little bit away from the leadership, more like the employee side. What makes an all-star employee? And we all know those all-star employees. They're the ones that they're not your regular employee. They don't just clock in at 9, clock out at 5. They are exceptional. You can put them in different roles and they thrive. What is an all-star employee to you?
An all-star employee has a couple different characteristics. They are adaptable, so they can roll with anything. You can throw any hat on them in some way. They're innovative and resourceful. Especially like when you're trying to, say, bring in somebody to a small business, you need someone who's not going to need their hand held the entire time. so that they're actually comfortable going trying to figure out a problem themselves, right? Go look at YouTube or Google or find the answer. So, being resourceful, I think, is critical. And then I would also say that they need to be somebody, especially in today's world, who's comfortable with going fast at times, like picking up the pace and being quick enough. Like when I'm hiring for small business owners and entrepreneurs, they want it down, right? So they got to be able to bring results. So speed is important. If there's someone who's just so slow, trapped in the weeds, always detail-oriented, which is an important skill, you might be too slow to work with some people, and that might frustrate them.
Do you feel like the all-star employees are also hard to keep?
Oh, yeah. All-star employees need to be challenged. They want to be rewarded. They want to be recognized. They want to know what's next. They're constantly hungry for the best opportunity, the next opportunity, where they can make an impact. If you have an all-star employee on a team or in a business who doesn't feel like they're being maximized or utilized, they're burnt out, they're checked out, they don't care, they'll go through the motions. And then they become, honestly, a shitty employee.
And have you seen this in action, where maybe there was an all-star employee or just an employee in general, and they kind of like pollute the water for the rest of the team? Is that common?
That is common, and I've been that person.
Ooh, okay. Dive in. You
I-
gotta share.
I have been that employee who's been really super strong, but feeling either neglected or feeling like I'm not being developed or having those opportunities, and start to be toxic myself. So I started to realize that over time, I'm actually polluting the waters more by being so negative. Because when you're negative, it's contagious. And it's one of those things where, like, the best thing that ever probably happened is like for me to leave an organization when I start to become toxic. That's why it's probably the right thing that I appreciate the fact that I was fired in my career. It was probably good for them, and it's good for me in the long run too. It's just not a fit. I've also come to believe, though, I'm probably unemployable. Right? Like, I shouldn't be working for somebody else based on my type of personality.
When was the moment that you knew that to be true? When did you realize, okay, I cannot, for the life of me, have a job again?
I think I realized this after attending a conference where I was with a bunch of other business owners, and I'm working at the time, and I'm a CEO of a company, and I realized, even though I'm kind of at the top of the company, I can't be the number two. I need to have my own ideas, my own vision, really move forward. Like, I think that was a big, huge realization as I'm seeing other business owners, really. I'm like, I need to have my own business. That's just who I am. I need to be able to come up with an idea that's going to help support the right community or right customers, but it's got to be something I believe in, that I can go all in on. I had that full body yes kind of feeling. I'm like, this is who I need to be. And it's kind of cool because it happened while I'm driving. When I had that realization, like just kind of chilling out, listening to some music, it helped me get into the zone of like, this is what I have to do. And this is how I need to be. And it took time to obviously put everything into motion, but it was the right call.
Yeah, I have a theory that a lot of people don't want to step into that because, number one, there's so much uncertainty. But also, when you have all the responsibility on your own back, it's like somebody that only does commissions.
Yeah.
When you have all the responsibility on your back, it's like, okay, that's number one, that individual is very brave, but it's like there's almost like nobody's going to be here to save me. But I think that is a very, very rare quality. Do you think that's fair? What are your thoughts?
I think so too. Like, there's this whole burn the ships kind of mentality, right? Like, if you get on an island and if you burn the boats, there's no going back. So when you truly go all in with the decision that you're going to run your own business, and you're just not half doing it, where like you're relying on a salary from another employer or something, it's going to push you to do what you need to do. Like, it almost in a way, like there's a desperation I think that comes from it that sometimes can like propel people just to take action. Because we need to survive, right? So I think like it helps you and it forces you to take action.
Just like with the whole landscape right now, do you predict that more people are going to become entrepreneurs? Or do you see the market moving more towards employees again?
We're going to go through an entrepreneurial revolution.
Really?
People are more fed up now than they've ever been. They are seeing that there is no such thing as loyalty, which most people should know by now, but now they're really starting to feel it and see it. I think that you're going to see even more resignations, more people starting to realize that they want the flexibility that can come from running their own business their own way. That operates on their terms. You'll see more entrepreneurs and small businesses that are going to be growing and thriving and really putting themselves out there than any other time, I think, in our history.
Wow. And you think it's just an accessibility thing? It's just, it's never been easier with the internet to build your own website, set up a Stripe account, build your social media presence.
I think that there's all the tools that are available for people, right? To leverage video, to leverage the expertise that's out there. But I think there's also just those push factors of that people are tired of having no control over their own life. And they're trying to apply for jobs, and there's a lot of people applying. But like, why put your eggs all in the basket of one employer who's going to decide your fate? I think people are starting to have that realization. You can't do that. Now, there'll be people who will try and fail, right? But I think there'll be more people starting to try than at any other point.
When did you start to feel like, because like I'm sure maybe the first few days you're like, okay, I'm going to create a business, I'm going to start this process. When did you really feel like, okay, I have something good here? And you finally started to just kind of like maybe relax a little bit or ease, or maybe you're not even there yet. Was there a moment, and what was the thing that led you to feel like, okay, things are going to be all right?
So when I created my company, Hire For Me, I was talking with business owners and I was giving advice on how to ultimately, truly, hire in their business. And 3 people said in one day, I wish someone would just hire for me. I realized all businesses are about solving a problem. I can solve that problem for them. I'll just create a company called Hire For Me to fix that issue for them. I think it's getting feedback before you kind of leap in and do something to make sure that there is a demand. That's the key, I think, to ultimately really succeeding and having that realization. And then you start to build it from there. I got home, registered the business, created the website. I got it all done within 2 or 3 days. I had everything everything finished really quickly. And people were like, you must have been working on this for a while. I said, nope. But when I think I'm going to turn this on, I'm going to go all in, I'm going to do it. Because I see a problem that I can fix.
Yeah, like do you think that speed is a massive variable that people are not doing well enough? Because it does seem like speed is a big thing for you.
Speed is one of my core values of my company, Hire For Me, because I think every company should have core values that determine who you are, how you're going to operate, and publish that with your employees and with your customers. Speed is everything for me. I can't go slow because I think that you want to get results as quick as possible to help as many people as possible.
What do you think's given you the confidence to be able to dive into all of these things and do it with such ease? And when I say ease, I don't mean ease, but it's I'm trying to think of another word for it. It's just you do it with such grace, each of these things.
Well, I appreciate that comment. I think that the ease, to use that word, comes and the confidence comes from having failed before. But also realizing I could fail, but it's just a pivot. That's all it is. All I'm doing is course correcting. I try something, it works, great. I'll keep doing it. If it doesn't work, no problem. I'll do something else. I think everything we do is like, it's about a pilot. It's a pivot. Like we can just clearly just tweak and adjust and try stuff. More things I try, the more I grow, the more fun I have. I'm not going to get, so stuck on one thing. If it doesn't work out, it's going to devastate me. It's like investing. You got to diversify your stock portfolio, as an example. Same thing with like skills and businesses. Get different options that are out there, so therefore you feel confident. This one works, great. If this one doesn't, no problem.
And another thing, like going back to Hire For Me, it's been really fascinating to see how creative you are. Like, how do you tap into your creativity, or do you think it's just something that's natural for you?
I think I get inspired by certain things that start to give me that creativity, right? But like, I'm a big believer in trying to leverage the experience of others. So if I'm watching a video like on, YouTube or TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever, I'm like, okay, what kind of advice can someone like Alex Hermosi give me? Can I take that and apply that? I'm a big believer in like, if I'm going to consume it, I'm going to take action on it. That inspires me. So I will listen to podcasts, I will watch videos and take courses, and I will try and consume, but also say, what can I do to apply to myself? That gives me more creativity. I'm always thinking from that creative perspective, how can I adjust it and make things different or better or improve it? I don't want to stay still. But it's also testing things, asking for feedback. Get yourself in the right room with the right people and say like, hey, John, what do you think of this? Does this work? Or am I missing the mark? Like, ask from multiple perspectives. Even people who are not your target market, they might see things you'll never see. That's why I love the third-party perspective of going in and consulting for other businesses. Because you see something that someone else might not see because they're so entrenched in it.
So you seem like you're pretty intuitive with this kind of stuff, right? Like you're able to, identify like very specific things. So like when you're looking for a mentor or you're looking for the person to pick their brain, what are some qualities or characteristics that you look for in an individual? How can you tell that person's legit and they're worth taking advice from?
I think it's about sometimes coming together and finding, is there some commonalities? Like, can we talk about like certain things that maybe certain metaphors that will work? Like, one of the reasons I like working with you is that we can talk about wrestling. I can throw in some stuff, about some of my background and my history. I can get into the poker stuff and you can engage back and forth with me. Like, we can relate guy to guy. And I think that's important, like finding someone you can actually connect with.
Right.
Because if you don't have some commonalities, it might be hard to maybe get a message across. Especially in a mentor-mentee relationship.
That's a great point.
Right? Like, there's people that I've been a mentor for where I'm struggling a little bit with a relationship because we just don't have something in common. And like, a mentor is really maybe only a couple steps ahead or a chapter ahead. Right? So I think that the important thing is like, it also has to be a win-win in that relationship because you can learn a lot as a mentor from a mentee and vice versa.
Absolutely.